Good day, everyone. My name is Ashley Ewald, class 2025, and I am the creator and the host of this podcast. Today's special guest is a Cambodian American author and a survivor of the Khmer Rouge genocide. Please welcome Loung Ung.
Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me on. And I am just having a good day. Hoping you're having a good day too.
Thank you. And it's such an honor to have your time. And today we're going to discuss your journey. Now, many of you may not know what Khmer Rouge was or about the Cambodian genocide. So today we brought a survivor. And I was fortunate to read your first book, First They Killed My Father, in my history class. I was so moved by your story and the tragedies that your family suffered in the genocide in the 1970s. But could you talk to the audience today about your experiences?
Sure. So I came into the world many years ago, and way before you were born, probably before your parents were born, in 1970, in a country called Cambodia, in its Southeast Asian nation. And in Cambodia, when I came into the world, the country had a population of 7 million people. And 90% or so of them were Buddhists, of us were Buddhists, and farmers living off the land. Like many other Cambodians at that time, I grew up and I grew up with both my parents with me, and going to school 3 times a day, 6 days a week. And then on the weekends, we went to the temple because we were Buddhists. Spending my days playing with my 3 sisters and my 3 brothers and hanging out with my family. And that childhood would come to a quick end, an abrupt end, on April 17th, 1975, when a group called the Khmer Rouge soldiers, the Khmer Rouge, the Khmer Rouge were the name given to the communist groups. Khmer is the word we call us Cambodians, where the Cambodians were Khmers, that's the word we call ourselves. And then Rouge is the French word for red. So they were the Red Cambodians. They were the nationalist communist group that took over the country on April 17th, 1975. And they took the country with this goal to create a new society where there would be no class, no caste, where everybody would be equal, where power would be taken from the elites and the leaders of the society and given to the poor and the peasant, and who they call or believe to be the true revolutionaries. And everybody else and anybody who didn't believe in their vision of this new nation were deemed as enemies of the states and traitors. So for the next 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, approximately the span of your college career, Ashley, my life would become stranger than fiction and so surreal, where all my rights were taken away from me and my family, one by one by one. And then by the time the war ended, I would lose both my parents, 2 sisters, 20 other relatives, along with, in Cambodia, out of a population of 7 million people, 1.7 to 2 million Cambodians would die from starvation, disease, hard labor, and execution.
Yeah, and that is, I don't know what to say. Thank you for sharing. And just about that, what made you stay so strong? I know in the book I read about how your father helped give you so much hope, but what kept you going?
The Khmer Rouge took over the country, and then they evacuated all the cities and all the, they evacuated everybody out of their homes and made them to live in countrysides that were more akin to labor camps. And every day we worked. We dug trenches and built dams and grew food that would be taken away by soldiers in trucks with their guns. And then we weren't fed, and we were hungry, and we were starving. And then the trucks would come back with guns and to support and to fight a war that we didn't want and we didn't vote in, and we didn't have anything, we didn't know anything about. And so for me, I think when my body got very hungry, what kept me going was um, I wanted to live for my family. There, when I didn't know what life was, when I didn't know what breathing was, when I didn't know whether or not there was anything redeemable in living, I wanted to do it for my father because I knew how much he wanted me to live. I knew how much my mother wanted me to live. I knew how much my family, my siblings wanted me to survive. And it's a real precious gift to have people care for you, to have people love you, to have people who want you to be well. And so I share this now because I think sometimes in our world we feel so alone and so isolated, and it is so important to have family members, to have loved ones, to have friends, to have a support base who want you to be well, so that when you don't have the strength yourself, you could borrow their strength. You could be gifted with their strength and their courage and their grace. And so for me, I personally wanted to live for them. And then as I got older and I learned more things, I wanted to live for revenge. And then as I got more angry, I wanted to live so I could go back and could grow back, and go back and to change the world, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But as a child, I didn't know about activism. I didn't know about human rights. I didn't know the powers that we have to make a difference, to affect change. All I knew was that I wanted to support my families, and I wanted to live for my mother and father and brothers and sister.
That is so powerful. You know, you're very resilient and persistent, and it just shows throughout your story. And once it fortunately ended, tell us, during your first years in the United States, what was it like to be an immigrant who didn't know how to speak English? And what was it like to integrate into American culture?
Well, my heart breaks so much nowadays watching what's going on in Ukraine and the invasion there, and seeing the children and the family members who have had to identify the bodies of their loved ones and who've had to cower in fear from the bombs and from the explosions and from the horrors and from the soldiers coming in. Because I remember that very, very clearly. When I first came to America, I was 10 years old. I didn't speak English. I didn't know anything about America. I didn't have any American friends. I didn't have any American family members or family members who came from Cambodia to America first who could teach us. So I didn't know anything. And I remember we arrived in June of 1980. And we were sponsored by this great group of Americans, from the Holy Family Church, and who was so kind and well-intentioned, and who also wanted to share with us the wonderful things about America, one of which was 4th of July, well, 4th of July festivities. And so just, 2 weeks or so after I arrived in America, after having spent 4 years in the genocidal Khmer Rouge regime, after having actually experienced real bombs exploding over my heads and on my and hit the bomb shelter I was hiding at, and to have my friend who was 9 years old died next to me, my sponsor took us to the 4th of July fireworks, and I remember my new American friends, all the people at the fairground getting so excited, and people were lighting sparklers, and people were just with anticipation of excitement of the fireworks show. And I could feel my skin crawl and my heart raced. And when the first firework explosion went up and exploded overhead, I was crying and was trying to hide underneath a bench, wondering why Americans didn't see the war now in America, why they didn't see that the soldiers were coming back. I had this very vivid, intense flashback and PTSD triggered by the loud fireworks, and none of my American friends understood. The people didn't know that the explosion was so loud. It felt so real that I felt it in my body, and the sound of a mother holding a baby and the baby's crying all of a sudden just became the sounds of wars. And so that was my really kind of first American experience. And to this day, I've had to learn how to take care of myself, how to be kind to myself, how to be aware that every single 4th of July, I have to be very much balanced and healthy, because things like that could still trigger me to have a PTSD episode. So that was one thing. The other things were that food was different. Did not to this day and do not still understand what blue cheese is all about. You know, and because I was so small from 4 years of being not having enough food to eat, that the Americans were trying to give us milk, of which I am lactose intolerant, and so I cannot drink milk, I cannot do dairy, and so I've had to learn about what I needed for myself, for my mind, for my body, but also the wonderful things of realizing that there are good people in our world. There are good people, they are kind people full of grace and joy, and people who want you to succeed, and people who, when they extend their hand to shake yours, they are not hiding a knife or a weapon behind in their back, hoping to hurt you. After I've gone through so many years of war, I've had to unlearn that. I had to unlearn that people were unkind, because in order to go from surviving to thriving, you have to believe in the goodness of the world. And that's why I'm really happy to talk to you, Ashley, because you are, with your work, you're doing that, you're showing that, you're expanding and extending upon that.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me, especially coming from you. And I hope listeners can hear your story and listen to that. I really appreciate, and I think it's so powerful how everything you went through, you were able to rise up. And the fact that you said that, you have to believe that there is good in this world to thrive, go from survive to thrive. That's so powerful. And just in general, and studying, what you've done after the Khmer Rouge genocide, your work with the nonprofit of the Landmine Project. How did dive more deeply into that?
Well, I was when I went to college, I, like many other young freshmen, did not really know what I wanted to study, but I knew I was always curious and always passionate about politics and passionate about making a change and creating change. And so I did volunteer work in high school. I did the Hunger Garden program, not Hunger Garden, the garden programs, community garden program. And I joined student activities in the national student activities, as well as just regular student activities. And that I went to college and got my degree in political science, because I believe we have the power to make a difference. We have the power to create change. And I believe that peace is not an automatic. Peace, whether it's in your heart, in our community, in our world, at our school, in our home, peace is not something you wish and therefore expect it to be granted. Peace is not something you want and wait for other people to work on it and deliver it to you. Peace is not something you wait for your government to work on and to commit to and strategize and actually sit back and do nothing about it. So whether it's in your home, in your community, in your heart, it is something you must commit to. It is something you choose and strategize and work on and on a daily basis. So choose to be a better person. Choose not to have a road rage day. Choose to be a kinder person. Choose to say hello to somebody today. Choose to make a difference, because it's not just, you do have that power. And so after college, I chose to work at a domestic violence shelter for 3 years to help women who've been harmed and student in hurtful relationships find healthier ways to live. I then worked with the campaign to ban the use of child soldiers and then to ban the use of landmines. And I was very much inspired, or actually very much passionate about working on landmines and ridding our world of landmines, because they are these weapon systems the size of a hockey puck or a compact powder that once in the ground stay active for decades. And you can buy a landmine in our world for $1 to $3 and then put them in the ground. And it could be 10, 20, 30, 50 years after the war has ended, a friend or a foe, and it matters not whose footstep on it, and step on the mine, and everything below you, rocks, dirt, toenails, grass, bones, shoes, would shoot up and disintegrate your flesh and melting off your bones. And it would just, and to survive, you would have to have your limbs amputated. And for children who step on a landmine, it's a lifetime of pain and scars. And because your stump may heal, but the bones will continue to grow and will protrude out of your stump. And so as a child, you would have to go to a hospital or a clinic and have your limbs cut and recut again until you stop growing. For an adult, it's a lifetime of pain and scars, because there's this thing called phantom pain. But even though your limbs are no longer there, you continue to feel the pain. And I'm so passionate about it right now because landmines is, again, being used all over the world, and have been harming and injuring and taking one life, one limb at a time at a rate of many thousands of people per year. As a traveler, as somebody who loves to go hiking, somebody who grew up in New England and hiked in the mountains of Maine and Vermont, and then also loved going to any one of the 70 countries in our world where there are landmines, how do I know if we don't work on this? How do any of us know that our next step will be a safe step? And so when I choose to work on various different campaigns, it's not only a choice to do the work because I want to assist anyone else, but it's also, I choose to do the work because it's the right thing to do. And it's also the thing that we do for ourselves. We do to protect ourselves as much as we protect others. And I really believe strongly that we all have this power to make a difference.
Yeah, I believe that too. Thank you. Thank you. And just in general, like after all the things that you've been through and just your landmine project and everything like that, you have a documentary that Angelina Jolie had helped she directed. And what was it like to see your story on the big screen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not a documentary. It's actually a feature movie. It's a feature film. And it's called First They Killed My Father. And it is streaming now on Netflix in 190, 150 countries. It was really wonderful. I'm so grateful to work on a project with somebody I trust and somebody I love and somebody whose integrity as a woman, as a mother, as a humanitarian, as a human rights workers, and somebody who cares passionately about our world. It was a privilege and an honor to work with a friend as well. What was it like to see the film? And it was very emotional and very powerful for my family, for myself. And more importantly, it was so encouraging and healing to work with 20,000 Cambodians extras, the musicians and the actors, the producers, the assistant producers, the costume designer, the makeup artists, to make a film like ours. We worked with 20,000 people and we shot the film for 4 months in Cambodia. And it was such a joy. It was such a healing and spiritual experience to spend 4 months in Cambodia with so many Cambodians and Americans and other Westerners making and working on a project that we all care so much about, that we all work on with the goal to help people not only know a little bit more about Cambodia, but to know the strength, the resilience, the grace, the generosity, and the love of the Cambodian people, and those who survived the war and those who are thriving in life. Yeah.
That's incredible. That is speechless. That's incredible. And I watched it too. It really does. And it really like summarizes your book so well as well. Like, and it's just, I encourage every student, professor, staff, parents that are listening to watch her film. because it's very powerful. But most of all, read her book. And just in general, your story is very different from many of the authors in the books I read in my modern global history class. And what stood out to me the most is the fact that like you lost your parents, and all the other authors, they lost their parents as well. But the fact that you use them as motivation to survive it's very powerful. And then it being able to rise up and to come to America and doing all these incredible things. Like how do you go about making a difference in this world? And how would you encourage other people to do the same?
I think, there's so many things going on in our world right now. So many things. I believe that we are born into the world with a sense of curiosity and compassion and generosity and grace in life. And then as you go on in life, you go to school and you go out into the world, things come at you so quickly, especially now with the technology that we have, that they overcrowd us, that they confuse our sense of self and our sense of identity and our sense of voice and narrative. And I think the tool to not just finding the voice and finding the work, but also finding your identity, is to listen to the vibration of your heartstrings. And that is so important, to listen to the vibration of your heartstrings. Our hearts are made of many chambers. And I always imagine, to me, your heart similar to visually like this violin, and that there's certain vibration that when you play on it, that just really hits the right note. And so it is for young person, especially, and anybody else, professor, young person, adult, old people like myself. It's that when you're reading a book, or when you are watching a television show or documentaries or news stories, to listen to the vibration of your heartstrings. And this will lead you to what you really care about. Because there are over 1.5 million charitable organizations registered in the US right now. There are so many different things that we can get involved with, that we can work on, so many issues that we need to know about, but we can't know about them all. We can't work on them all. And what we need to do is to work on the ones that you are most passionate about, because when you connect your passion and your action together, you will actually stay on that track, on that path much longer, and therefore creating a sustainable change instead of something that is very truncated and abrupt. And so I really think that's what student needs to do, is to listen and to pay attention, and then get involved. Once you hear that vibration, then research it. Find out what it's about. Find out why you care about it. You actually may care about student government, and that is the vibration of your heartstrings. That is the note that is most authentic to you. Your work is to find out why you care about it. What is it in your history? What is it in your family? What is it in your community? What is it in your heart that is making you care about this so much more than other issues and projects? And once you understand that more, I believe that then the issue in you will be so much more bonded, and you will stay on this much longer. That's what we need. We need everybody to not just get involved, but to get involved and stay with it. I have been involved and have cared about human rights issues for over 30 years now, probably more like 40 years. I started when I was in high school. And the things that I care about when I was in my teens, when I was in college, when I was in my 30s and 40s and 50s, have only grown stronger because I listened to the vibrations of my heartstrings. And so I think it's very important to do that. And then research, get involved, take action, work together. And also know that what you do matter. Do not lose faith. Do not lose hope. Do not go into the dark side. always know that there is light, that there's hope, and that your voice and your actions and your work absolutely will change somebody's life. If not the world, somebody's life who's just like me when I was a little girl, who just like you, Ashley, and that will make all the difference to that person. And who knows what that person's going to grow up to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very
I
much.
actually have like maybe about 3 more minutes, and then I got to jump on the next call.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Loung. Awesome. Any last remarks? That's incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Last remarks, have a great time at school. Enjoy yourselves. Learn and study, love and live and laugh. And also don't forget to work on your compassion, your kindness, your generosity. It is, I think often adults are always telling young people, be a good person, or be studious, or study hard. I'm here to say all that, but also be kind, be generous in spirit, be
Thank you.
compassionate, be empathetic.
Yes. And all of that is from Loung Ung, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. And don't forget, follow the Peach Times podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.